Well, good evening, everyone. How are you? No sweat, bonsoir, whichever you want. Another club meeting has come around, and I see Dave Unna's here. Good evening, Dave, and he's beaten me to it. I was going to tell you about Jeff. He's got a doctor's appointment, so he may or may not get here. But yes, he's spoken to me as well today. He's doing very, very well. He feels 150%, and I'm sure we're all very pleased to hear that news. Kathy's here. Hello, Kathy. Roland Bear, good evening, Roland. You know, it's always good to see you here, Roland. You're so many miles away, but you started off at Gabriel's group and you've come across to ours. And we're very, very pleased to see you come in and thank you very much for your support, the same as everybody else's support. But sometimes it's nice just to thank individuals. Teresa, good evening. Very nice of you to come along as well. Since Andrew Norris introduced you, we're glad to see you. Pete Coombs is here. Good evening, Pete. Susie's probably not so far away. Elaine's here. Hello, Elaine. Andrew Murphy. Good evening. Hello, Ian. Nice to see you. Yeah, there we are. Next one down is Susie. So good to see everybody. I hope generally you're all doing pretty well. Um, it's really been a month since the last productive meeting because don't forget, last time was that dreadful evening when excuse me, got a slight itch. When YouTube had a hiccup. Well, it was more than a hiccup; it was a big. And anybody who was doing a live show that evening was just beset with problems. So apologies to you all for that. We were all frantically running around trying to find what we could do to cure it. In the end, there was no cure because it wasn't my fault. It wasn't your fault. But it totally ruined the evening, unfortunately. Uh, Claire's here. Hello, Claire. Thanks for coming. Nice to see you. 18 people in already. No, 15 people in already. So thank you all for coming. We'll give it another few minutes before we get into the meeting proper because we have a theme evening again this evening. We did say that we'll do it once a month. Tonight's theme is, what was the first record I ever bought? And we hope, hello, Tracy. We hope you've all had your thinking caps on and you are prepared to be honest. Andy, good evening, Andy. I hope you got my message that I wrote the other day on there. I've been thinking, well, we've all been thinking of you this week in Dubai. We hope things aren't too bad for you over there. All we can do is to hope and pray that this wretched orange thing from across the pond um, brings this damn war to an end, because it's people like yourself that are in the middle of it that's going to always suffer more. I don't really want to get onto politics, but I just felt that where you are, I'm sure you would like to know. I'm sure all of our thoughts are with you, and hopefully you'll come out of it unscathed, mate. But it is good to see you. Thank you very much for joining in despite everything. Oh, and I see you've decided to kick things off. The thing is, you see, a lot of these records will obviously give a clue to how old people were. Uh, Call for Cats by Squeeze, yes. That was quite a good choice. I like Call for Cats. Uh, as I say, we've all got. Hello, Ron's here. No, I know Ron would be here because he suggested this topic. I think it was a long time ago. I My very first single, just to try and kick things off, was "Have I the Right" by the Honeycombs. That must have been one of the early colour records, Andy. Elaine says my dad bought me Anthony Newley. Why? Indeed. Oh, here's a good one. Here's a good one. Elaine's first record was God Only Knows by the Beach Boys. What a lovely choice. What a good choice. Peter Coombs come in as a bit of a younger man. Life is a Minestrone by 10cc. So there we are. Stand by your beds. Rob Croser's in the house. Good to see you, Rob. Welcome. He says that they've got a Nelly the Elephant on a 78. Roland says, I can't remember what was my first record, but Rolling Stones was among the first. I bought a Rolling Stones record in Germany, funnily enough, Roland. It was in 1969. We were staying in Bensberg-Meutzfeld near Köln. And I went into a record shop somewhere near the Kölner Dom. And I bought, what did I buy? That's a stupid thing. It's gone completely out of my head now. Whatever the Rolling Stones record, Honky Tonk Women, that was it. Stupid boy. Don't get old. Don't get old. You can have it in your head until you go to say it and then it's gone. Tracy says, mine was I lost my heart to a Starship Trooper. I can vaguely remember that one, Tracy. Robert Croser says One Vision by Queen. Mark Burgess, Anita Ward's Ring My Bell. Ah, interesting. Blimey, that's bringing things up into the more recent times, isn't it? Yeah, record stores and Woolworths. Yes, you could go in and have a listen to them before you bought. I miss those days. Kathy says, I dare not mention Cliff Richard. You can mention him, Kathy, but you have to suffer the result that you get." She knows I'm not a fan of Cliff Richard, unless you go way, 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 way back to things like Living Doll and that. Um, Chirpy Chirpy Cheep Cheep was her first record. Hello, Gabe. Good to see you, mate. Derek and the Dominoes, Layla. Oh, Dave Mundy, good choice, sir. Threshold of a Dream, yeah. Ron says I bought two first records, Beach Boys' Good Vibrations, and I'm a Believer, the Monkeys. Yeah. Now the Monkeys, they were a funny. I like the Monkeys. I've got two of their albums, and Michael Nesmith, from what I remember, was never really 100% happy as a member of the Monkeys. They were all sort of yank pop and all the rest of it. And I like their songs. They were nice and bright and cheerful. He was more of a blues rock fellow. And on one of their albums, I think it might have been the best of the Monkeys, is probably my favourite Monkeys record called Sweet Young Thing. Now, if you've never heard it, go onto YouTube and search for it. Totally different to all the other Monkey stuff. And then, of course, when the Monkeys broke up, he went on and did his own stuff with blues and rock. Very, very talented man, Michael Naismith. Elaine says her auntie used to give record vouchers. Glad all over, Dave Clark, Jerry and the Pacemakers, You'll Never Walk Alone. Yeah. Susie says she honestly says she can't remember, but nothing jumps to mind. Rob says all those came out before I was born. Yes, we know that, sir. Ah, his Andrew Norris's first single was a classic, Two Little Boys. Um, what a shame that the person that sung that went on to get his name sullied. Gabe says Nesmith was the only musician and the others were actors. That's why he was unhappy. Yes, yes, I can fully understand that, Gabe. I mean, they did all gradually learn, but yes, when they first came out, yes, definitely. Lane Johnson says Michael Nesmith's mother had something to do with Tipex. Well, I never knew that. Kathy's gonna message Elaine at 9 o'clock about that little matter there. Tracy Murphy says her friend from school bought her the same record as I did for Christmas. Could I be so good? Oh, I could be so good for you by Dennis Waterman. He was a good singer, wasn't he? He really was. Um, the theme music, if you remember, he sang the theme music to New Tricks, and it was a variation. Some of you may or may not remember the Travelling Wilburys, brilliant group. Bob Dylan, Tom Petty, George Harrison, the Big O, Jeff Lynne, brilliant, 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 brilliant. And they did a record called The End of the Line. And the theme music to New Tricks was a variation of End of the Line by Dennis Waterman. Very well done, that was. Teresa Mulligan says, I'll be singing Glad All Over tomorrow. Well, maybe some of you will be singing these songs tomorrow. You never know, do you? My, now, you can always guarantee that my friend Michael White will come in and say something that will, this time it's YouTube is trying to make a monkey out of me. Kathy says Michael Nesmith always used to wear a woolly hat. How many girls had a crush on David Jones? I should imagine an awful lot of them. The first LP. Now Rob's giving us his first LP, which is fair enough. We can broaden it out to be the first LP because this certainly gives us something to talk about. This is why I like the idea of having a themed evening because it makes it a lot easier for me because I instead of waffling on about nothing in particular, I can pick up what's in the chat. And I'm sorry if I'm just reading it out verbatim, but some of you might have missed the things that are going up. So um, it might get things. My first LP that I bought, I'd had LPs given to me before, but the first LP that I bought with my very first pay packet, I bought just down the road from where I worked in Holborn Kingsway. It was the W.H. Smith shop just down the bottom of Holborn Kingsway, and I bought Simon and Garfunkel's Bridge Over Troubled Water. No, it wasn't Bridge Over Troubled Water. It was Bookends. That's it, Bookends. And I still think that's one of the most brilliant albums ever. David Essex had charisma. Yes, indeed. Yes, definitely. And he says James Last and his party LP. Well, it's interesting how people have varied musical taste. I mean, I sometimes laugh a little bit at what people tell me that they bought, but let's be honest, all our tastes are different. I mean, if you look at my record collection, you think to yourself, what have I got this? What have I got this record for? And then what have I got that one? Because it goes from the well, if I tell you that I've got the theme music to Sesame Street and Black Beauty and Budgie, because I used to be a bit of a DJ years ago. I worked with a disco, so I had my own set of singles. I used to do the 60s interlude in the middle of the evening. And if people didn't dance, these were the records that I used as punishment. Michael White says his first record was Mozart's 40th Symphony. My first classical record was uh, um, oh, it it was Midsummer Night's Dream. I'm just trying to think. Felix Was it Felix Mendelssohn's Midsummer Night's Dream? Couldn't have been. Anyway, that was what it was. Midsummer's Night's Dream. Cliff's hits list. Engelbert Humperdinck. Oh, Elaine, you shouldn't have admitted that. Engelbert Humperdinck, please release me. He was another one. Engelbert Humperdinck. What was his name? Jerry Dorsey, his real name. He took his name from a classical composer. Bridge Over Troubled Water was a lovely song. Yes, yes, I know. One really, really nice. Pete says he mostly bought singles and tapes, but the first vinyl was U2 Rattle and Hum. Ah. Rob Coaster says David Essex wasn't a bad actor. If you've seen That'll Be the Day and Stardust. I've got the DVDs sitting on my shelf somewhere over there, Rob. I think they were brilliant films, really good. Michael White says American Pie was his first single. Elaine's first classical was Nutcracker Suite. Tracy Mercy says Tommy Dorsey. I think Tommy Dorsey was somebody different. I'm sure his name was Jerry Dorsey. It could have been, because there was a Jerry Dorsey, wasn't there? Oh, that was Mungo Jerry, wasn't it? Yep, Elaine says they all did that with their names, like Shane Fenton. Top of the Pops was compulsory viewing. Yes, that's right. And he says, does anyone remember the flimsy freebie singles you sometimes got with Look-In magazine? Yeah, you got them with several magazines. I've got one upstairs, the New Music Express. I can't remember the title of it, but it's a Curved Air one that I've managed to keep. Jerry was his name, right? Okay, yeah, Stardust, definitely a great film. Ah, good evening, Mark. I'm glad you're here. I need to ask you a question. You're the only one I can think of that might possibly know. Now, quite a few of you might remember one of the chaps that we used to see regularly in another place was a chap called Henry V. Agincourt, whose name is Dave. And I have not seen head nor tail of him since we exchanged a message through one of these YouTube things many, many years ago. Now, I know he lives up in Manchester way, and I know he can't always get to these meetings because he works a lot of nights. Mark, if you, for any reason, are in touch with Dave, um, do give him our regards. Remember us to him, and hopefully he might possibly be able to join us one of these Wednesdays. Clearly, it says the first album was by Enigma in Roman numerals. Let's have a look. 19. No, MCM XC. So that's 1990. Yes. Um, we went all prog rock in Stardust. As Kathy said, those days you knew the lyrics, you knew the singers. They were most of the time real musicians. Or a group that I used to love, Renaissance. I've been watching them on YouTube recently, and especially the 50th anniversary concerts and the more recent ones it did. Considering that by the time she was doing her later concerts, she was in her 70s. Annie Haslam still had it. Her voice range was incredible. Debbie Harry sadly had lost it unfortunately, as she got a bit older, her voice didn't quite have the same. Annie Haslam's changed slightly, but she could still get up there. If none of you have ever heard Renaissance, I urge you to go on YouTube and listen to some of their music. Oh, okay, Mark. Thank you. I wouldn't want him to think that he's forgotten because he's not. Mark Burgess says, don't know what LP I bought first. Quite possibly a soundtrack one. Got a few TV themes. Yeah, there were a lot of those sort of albums about in those days, weren't there? Oh, Michael White says he knew the Cockney Rebel and Tina Charles because they used to shop in his dad's greengrocers in Hampton Court. Oh, that's nice. Rob Croter says Northern Lights, wonderful song. Yes, that was their probably one and only hit record. They weren't really a hit record band. They were more what I would call classical progressive. If you go back a few years to their early catalogue, I can recommend an album called um, Turn of the Cards. Some wonderful stuff on there. And then other albums, they had songs like Ashes Are Burning and Ocean Gypsy, Scheherazade, all well worth listening to. Upstairs in my cupboard, I think I've got about 4 or 5 Renaissance albums. Dave Mundy says he got into prog rock, Collective, Moody Blues, Pink Floyd, ELP, Grateful Dead. Hey, man, do you mean Welsh Rock Band? Brilliant band. Electric Light Orchestra, yeah. Tracy, does Martin seriously want to admit to that? However, it was a very funny record, and if that's the first one you want to buy, it's probably a collector's item now. You never know, do you? I did like it though, I must admit. The problem was with that when I started driving for a living, my friends decided to retitle that song and they altered it to say his name was Bernie and he drove a double decker in the town. Remember you're a Womble? Robert Croser says folk prog rock. He has Scheherazade and other stories. Brilliant album. Brilliant album. Used to be a paper man with it. Yes, he was 6. Well, fair enough. Fair enough. I've got 1 or 2 music books around with different songs in them. Mark says I came to them through Pentangle and Steel Eye Span. Oh yeah, yeah. Pentangle, Bert Yanch, John Renbourn. Who was the lady in Pentangle? God, can't think of her name. No, this is going very well. I'm enjoying this. I don't know about you lot. Susie Quattro, 48 crashed. Yeah. Robert Grosser says he played Bohemian Rhapsody to Wendy when she visited. She'd never heard of it. Good grief. Elaine says she needs a sheet music from Obla Di Obla Da. Jackie McShee. Thank you. Thank you, Rob. Thank you. Clanad running and others. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I think nothing wrong with a little bit of Jimmy Osmond. I think, and Tracy says she met Jimmy Osmond. I think that would be as good a time as any just to take a short break. if we may, please. Um, there are some parish notices, and so I'll get the parish notices, and I've also got a poem to read you. So if we take a halt from the musical memories for a few minutes, then yeah, I'll take my pill in a minute. But I just want to get the parish notices out of the way, and then we'll sort things out from there. I think it's a lovely idea we do these topics, but only once a month, otherwise I get bored with it. So I'm going to give you. I've got two more suggestions that have been given to me. So the next two topics will be in April, 4 weeks' time. Shops that we remember on the high street that have gone. Okay, I'll try and remind you nearer the time. Shops that we used to have on the high street that have gone, and I'm going to remember to get a piece of paper and I'm going to draw an imaginary high street, and I'm going to fill in the spaces the names of all the shops as they come in. And then in May, 4 weeks after that, comedy that makes us laugh. Okay, so 4 weeks time next month, shops that have gone in the high street, and in May it's comedy that made us laugh. I hope you agree that there'd be interesting topics. And after that, I should be calling for any more suggestions. Now, sometimes music, and talking of these first records that you bought and everything else, um, they bring back memories. Sometimes they're good memories, sometimes they're not so good, but they can also inspire you. Now, I'm sure one of the records that somebody would have bought, first of all, would have been Tunnel of Love by Dire Straits. And I like Dire Straits. That song brings back memories of, for me, Battersea Park Funfair, which is sadly gone now. The Kurzel, that's gone now. There's just the main building, main entrance building of the Kurzel has just been sold to somebody who promises to develop it, but it's been allowed to decay recently. There's no trace of Battersea Park Funfair. And of course, the other big one was the Spanish City, um, in Whitley Bay. And the only part of that left is what was the main entrance, which is now a Spanish it's kind of restaurant thing. But Robert Croser didn't like Dire Straits, but then it's not to everybody's taste, I must admit. But sometimes the song can, I don't know, you know, it can inspire you to do things. So I was listening to one or two of the songs because one of my favourites is Brothers in Arms. I honestly don't see how that you can classify that as boredom on record, Rob. I think that's a very appropriate song and a very moving song. But one of my favourites was Tunnel of Love, and so I'm going to bring a bit of rubbish to the meeting now, and I'm going to read to you what I wrote while I was listening to Tunnel of Love many years ago, and it's called Spanish City Lament. I thank you. The Spanish city lies forlorn on the shores of Whitley Bay at dawn. No more the hordes from up the Toon with their fish and chips and nookie broon. Tunnel of Love was spawned from right here, from cigarettes and lukewarm beer. It tells the tale of fairground lust, but call it love if you really must. Any two can play, the man cries out, but the girls have their eyes on the roustabouts that jump twixt the cars with so much ease and give them all a knowing squeeze. They'll do for tonight, the girls say to each other, but for God's sake, pet, don't you dare tell my mother. Those days are all gone. Alas, from this place, the rides have all closed and all traces erased. What fun we all had, though, in those carefree days. We look back as our memories drift into haze. I think you. Rubbish over. We get back to some better stuff now. Oh, I better take my tablet after that, hadn't I? That's what it is. Great Spanish City was a great place. Yeah, Rob would have known the Spanish City. See, I do write the odd bits of poetry, um, but what it's usually been is it's very Milligan-esque because I've tended to write them for Oscar, but I never really write them down. But one I found the other day is very, very quickly for you. I once knew a cat who sat on a mat and did nothing all the day long. He was a Welsh chapel cat. And how did I know that? Because he frequently burst into song. There you go. Right, let's stop this, get back to some sense. Good after asking precedents. Hang on, Clements. Oh, after all that, the Mark's Adventures knew the Spanish. See, people who lived up north, that was their equivalent of. Oh, thank you very much for your kind words, folks. Not sure I deserve them, but thank you very much anyway. Down south, it was the Kurzel, but to a greater extent was Battersea Park Funfair. Now, Battersea Park Funfair was built in 1951 for the Festival of Britain, but it stayed for what 20 odd years or so before they closed it down, and it became the go-to place in London. And that was the one and only time when I went there with a mate of mine that I ever went on the dive bomber. Oh, and I vowed never to go on any of those sort of rides again, and I never did. Um, but because I wasn't born until 1952, what I missed was the festival gardens bit next to the funfair. I'm a great fan of Roland Emmett, who does these fantastical drawings of the trains in Cloud Cuckoo Land and what have you, and Heath Robinson Carter, yeah, things. And one of the locomotives, or two of the locomotives actually from Roland Emmett's books, were brought to life for the Far Tottering and Oyster Creek Railway, I think it was, at the Festival of Britain. I don't really think any of us are actually old enough to remember seeing it or going on it. But I would have loved to. One of the locos was called Neptune, and there is one loco and a little bit of something else that's preserved at a private museum down in Wiltshire, I think, somewhere. I would have loved to have seen that. Anyway, let's. Yeah, Rob says preferred Spanish City to Blackpool Pleasure Beach. Yes, I can understand that. Yeah, Andrew says the dive bomber horrible. Yes, definitely. Oh, Elaine says she's got some memorabilia from Battersea Park. Bruce Forsyth and Anthea got married, and they were oh, good grief. That's going back a bit, isn't it? Yeah. Lindisfarne, another group of Geordie folk rockers. Yes, yes. The naughty words to Fog on the Tyne. Claire's dad used to go to the Kurzel in Southend. See, the music can bring back all these sort of things, can't it? Mark says it didn't always live up north. Lancashire's become his home, but previously Bristol, Richmond, and Middlesex. He got around a bit, didn't he? I'm glad you called it Middlesex. I still refer to it as Middlesex. It don't seem right to call places like Staines Surrey. Elaine said her mum and dad used to talk about the curse. I'd been there a few times when I was younger. When we lived in Virginia Water, going to Southend was a bit of a day out, a bit of a treat for us. Um, Dad being on the railways, he would have his privilege ticket, and we'd all go off for a cheap day out. Army brats went all over. Yeah, yeah. Personal flyers. Yes. Um, I remember the name, Rob. I can't remember the records or anything about them, but I do remember the Curzon Flyers were a mod band. I don't think I've got any other parish notices tonight, except to say don't forget the next Wednesday will be Gabe and Jeff back again. Um, so as you know, you always get something on a Wednesday night. And there's two or three more videos out on their channel anyway, so it's always worth going to have a look. And Dave, the Wandering Ponderer, puts out his brilliant little videos on a Saturday. Now, with sincerest apologies, if you kindly talk among yourself for a few minutes, I will return. Sincerest apologies, folks. I always hope I can make it through the meeting, but I've been out all day today, so I durstn't take my um, water tablet till I got home, and of course, then I completely forgot about the meeting while I took it. So it's had its effect. So apologies, but I know you all understand what the position is. So thank you for that. It makes you laugh, so if you know, I don't give a damn. Why should you be? Why should we be embarrassed about that? It's ridiculous. Yeah, Michael White says, "Get the hobnob." Yeah, you've pinched all the hobnobs before I got back. Let's have a look. Exit stage left. Oh dear, oh dear. Claire says, "Where's I gone?" Yes, you know where I've been. Andy, yes, now. I'll tell you a funny story. When I worked for Birchwood Ford after I was forced to retire from the buses, I worked for Birchwood Ford for, well, it must be the best part of 8 or 9 years. Uh, as a part-time parts delivery driver. But as well as selling Fords, Birchwood also sold Kias. I, I was talking to the manager of the Kia garage one day. I said, I said, you lot are missing out on something. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, look, why don't you have a word with Kia and see if you can paint one of their little cars orange? He says, because he's only a young man, this chap. He says, I'm not exactly with you. I said, well, if you painted one of these cars orange, you could sell it as a special limited edition model, the Kia Aura. He didn't see the joke, but several of the others saw it, and I was sort of ushered out to the door. Well, they would have sold. I'm sure they would have sold. Would you have bought a Kia Aura? He was too young to remember. Remember the vending machines on the railway station where you could buy Kia Aura, or you could buy. You remember when you put sixpence in and got a carton of milk in a wax carton with a straw? Yeah. What was the other one? She did. We saw Kia Aura, didn't we? Yeah. Kia Aura drinks ice creams. Yeah. Michael says he thought I'd gone to Wales. I am back next month. I have got a week in Aberystwyth where I intend to travel on the Vale of Rheidol Railway and up to the top of the funicular railway. I was a little disappointed the other week when my cousin told me that I had misunderstood him when he was talking about 24% of his DNA being Welsh. I thought that meant from our great grandmother's side of the family, but it wasn't. It was his mother's side of the family. But rest assured, I've been back through our side of the family, and I have found Welsh people in my side of the family as well. So I can still honestly say I have blood relatives who were Welsh. But I'm seriously thinking of having my DNA done because I won't go into the personal details because of it, but there were various circumstances where I now feel I owe it to my late dad to see if I can find out anything about his circumstances because we never knew who his father was. Um, so I'm now rapidly coming round to the conclusion that I owe it to his memory to see what I can find out about him and the person who was my real grandmother, not the woman who raised my dad. But I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there. Bongo. God, you remember that? God gracious me. Hey, this isn't. We've had this. We've had this sweets and things. So let's get back to the music, please. Back to the music. Thank you very much, Mr. Crozer. Yes, I know Kerry would help me. Um, she's got a lot of work on at the moment, and maybe when she hasn't got quite so much, we can have a chat and we'll see. We'll see what happens. Andrew Murphy says his first record was Stevie Wonder's Master Blaster, which was a 99p download. Yeah, I suppose that's. I don't know whether you would count whether a download has the same. You can pick up a record and you can look at it, and you're physically looking at it, and it's not just. Robert, lots of them are there as well. Okay. I hope they don't tie them to lampposts and call them leisure centres, though, as Jethro would say. Um, yeah, no disrespect. Today's the digital age, and there's not many people, although there's more and more buying vinyl, most people buy digital downloads. I prefer the more rounded sound of vinyl. And when you're physically holding a record, I find it tends to bring back more memories than just listening to something that's coming out of two speakers somewhere from goodness knows what. I don't know whether that makes sense, but I think those of you that have vinyl records, you'll know what I mean. They have a sound type all of their own, and as I say, you hold the LP cover, and you know so many of them. You open out and you see the lyrics, the songs, and all the rest of it, and they have more of a meaning, I think. To be honest with you, Ron Langley says, "Did anyone use the record booth?" Well, yes, definitely. It was when I first got into Renaissance. Now, my mate said, "You've really got to listen to this band." And he told me the track to listen to was Things I Don't Understand. It was on an album called Turn of the Cards. And I went into a music shop and I said, could I listen to Things I Don't Understand from Renaissance, Turn of the Cards, please? And the bloke said, yes, of course you can. That was it. The album was in my hands before I left the shop. Mark says he's got Welsh. Yep. I think, and though I've mentioned before, there's a word called hiraeth. It has no English meaning, but it's something that's in you that just calls you to Wales. And when you're in Wales, it just says, even if you weren't born there, it just says, you're home. This is your spiritual home. Why? I don't know. But that's what the sort of feeling you get, that there's a Welshness about you. Um, and it really started when I started going on coach tours a few years ago. My first coach tour was to Llandudno, and I felt so strongly that I belonged up there in North Wales. Um, I'm proud of being a Sussex lad and living my life in Sussex, but there was something that said, you know, perhaps in another life or something, this is you. There's something in you that is here. I can't really explain it, but every time I go to Wales, that feeling gets stronger. I don't necessarily learn any better Welsh, but there you go. Yes, Andy says the sleeves sometimes good with history and narratives. Yes, definitely. I hope they were qualified, Michael, in their profession. Somebody else has. Somebody said hi, Anna. Who's? Oh, Anna Jones. Hello, Anna. I haven't seen you for some time. Very welcome, welcome. I hope I haven't missed anybody else. Didn't see Alison Oh yes, yes, there she is. Look, just down there. Hello, Alison. Nice to see you. I hope you're doing okay at the moment. Oh, Rob says the Roger Dean album covers are the likes of yes. Oh, some absolutely spectacular album covers, weren't there? My word. Now, there have been so many good record titles here. Shall we go from the sublime to the ridiculous? One of my favorite albums that's sitting upstairs in my record cases is a double album that was bought out 1968, 69-ish, probably, maybe slightly earlier. How many of you can remember a group called the Incredible String Band? I have the album Wee Tam and the Big Huge. Andy H says, using the English name, Tenby is nice. Dienbich. Dienbicher Puskod. Little fortlet of fish or a little town of fish. It is nice. I was there last October. Now, I haven't yet released the videos from Wales, but there will be visits to Dienbich included in the videos that will be released over the next coming weeks. And that will take me nicely into the summer when hopefully I should get back out and about filming locally again. Yeah, Kathy stayed when Kathy went to Wales. She stayed in the same hotel as I did last year. And when I stayed there, it still had the same rather worn wallpaper. Yeah, Mark says he burst in. There's something about Henrad van Hadai. I know some people say, "Oh, it doesn't make the hairs," they don't get affected. But you're standing in the Millennium Stadium, and there are 70,000 plus Welsh voices singing in almost perfect harmony. That, and of course, the other staple song, Velen Sefyll Rhwng y Merchoed, Merchoed, Guide Me, O Thou Great Jehovah. When that's sung in Welsh, it hits the spot too. Michael White says he can remember the Incredible String Band. Oh, here we go. Gabe says he's got all their albums. I started something off here, haven't I? Robin Williams performed in a small venue in Brighton a few years ago. Yeah. I mean, it's weird music to a lot of people, but it, it's simple music in many respects. But you look at some of the songs like Maya and Who Moves the Black Castle, Who Moves the White Queen, the half remarkable question, that's it. And then you go to simple little things like a one-line song. Many were the lifetimes of the sons of Joseph's brother. See his coat, the ragged riches of the soul. And that's it. That's the song. 30 seconds, gone. You know. Yeah, Andy said that this is it. The miners had choirs and colliery brass bands. They're all now lost. There's a spirit gone from Wales. And it's the same with the rugby. The Welsh Rugby Union have messed it all up. As far as I'm concerned, as soon as the day that they went fully professional in that game, ruined everything. And I don't think the spirit is left in Wales anymore. I don't think the spirit of, although it is the land of song, I don't think the spirit of song is so strong these days. Um, but if you follow Sean James Cameron, he's off and down the road from where he lives in Treorchy. Uh, I don't know if the Treorchy Male Voice Choir is still going. I used to like them. They were really, really, really good. But I think one place that my hair stood on end on the back of my neck, I was in Truro a few years ago, and I went inside the cathedral, and normally you can film in there, but there was a male voice choir concert on that week. And so the lady said, I'm afraid they're still singing. She said, you can film a little bit if you want to go over to the side. I can't remember what the song was now, but if you and it wasn't sung in Welsh, it was being sung in English. But if you go back over my back catalogue and you find my video of the visit to Truro, these guys, the acoustics in what is a magnificent cathedral, really, it gets you. It does. It really does. Claire says her favourite band of all time is Pulp, and that reflects the age difference between us. Mark says Kernow and Cumbria have joint history. Yes, it's sort of partly due to the Romans. When the Romans invaded England, many of the Britons decided to go over to France, and they formed what is now known as Brittany, which has its own language, Breton. And then gradually, over the years, some of them started drifting back. So you had this movement from Brittany to Cornwall into Wales. And you have a lot of words that are very similar. Take the word church, for instance, and in France, it's église. I believe in Care now, it's eglos. In Welsh, it's eglwys. Very, very similar. Alison said her mobility is still a problem. Oh, that's a shame. Let's hope it improves soon, Alison. Rob said, Sean James Cameron, the toast maker. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Do you know this has gone so quickly, the scene. I was wondering whether anybody would mention that. I have got an original mono recording of that in the circular packing. Ogden's Nut Gone Flake by the Small Faces with Stanley Unwin on the backside, and it goes, what was it? The Moon and Dangly, yeah. Yes, that is an album. It's one of those albums which people of a certain age, every home should have one. And as I say, I got that when it first came out. While it was out, it was a mono recording, and like I say, in the circular packaging, when you open it up, it's like looking inside a great big tin of tobacco. Really, really good, really good. And Mark, he's got that too. Deep Joy, yeah, yes, definitely, definitely. Lazy Sunday, I think's on that back of it. But you've got things like Reenie, the Docker's Delight. Yeah. Oh, excuse me. Would you believe we're into the last 3 minutes of the program, or the meeting, I should say? I don't think we've had an awful lot in this week compared to what we normally do, but I think it's gone on quite well. If the idea of this theme isn't, doesn't suit you, please, for goodness sake, let me know. The last thing I want to do is to inflict something on you that you're not going to enjoy. Um, but I've enjoyed having a look at all your different first records, and all the different comments and memories. Andy says he should be out of hospital next time. Andy, that is some of the best news we've had for ages. I know none of us have ever met you, but you're a friend. You grow on us. Hopefully, one of these days you'll be over here and close enough that maybe some of us can actually get to meet, have a coffee, and say hello. But I'm very glad to hear that you hopefully will be out of hospital. So do take our best wishes and hope that all goes okay. Michael White says I've broken a record tonight. There you go. Well, we're heading towards the end of the program now. So I think all that remains for me to say in the last couple of minutes is Mark Burgess's dad's planning to see. Yes, I know Ian McKagan is going. I still think it's a rip-off at 62 quid, but if it's one of these bucket things and it's a one in a lifetime thing, I'm not gonna say anything about people who are paying that money to do it. That's my own personal opinion. As long as they enjoy it, this is the thing. If they enjoy the experience, I hope you all have a good time who's going to travel on Scotsman. I really do. And here we are. We are almost at the bewitching hour of 9 o'clock, if you could call it that. I'm going to close the meeting there. Um, I've had a busy day today, so I need my bed, as I'm sure some of you need to rest up for the night. All I can say is I very much hope you have enjoyed this evening, and you seem to have enjoyed the theme, and I hope it's brought back memories. Don't forget Gabe and Jeff's video show next Wednesday. I'll be back in a fortnight when I'll be desperate for things to say, probably. And in a month's time, make sure you make a note of the subject: shops from the high street that have gone. Okay? So thank you all very much. I look forward to seeing some of you soon. Don't forget, although there is one more meeting before that, meeting at midday at Rye Station on the 26th of March to have coffee with our good friend Mark Burgess, our man on the marsh. Make a note of it. I know it's a long way east for the majority of you, but any one or two of you who can manage it, you will be more than welcome to come and join us. I will remind people in due course of time. Okay? That's very kind of you, Tracy. Thank you very much. I'm glad everybody seems to have enjoyed it. But then you see, this is what social club is all about. We work together. We make our enjoyment, and I'm glad that I'm just sitting here, just really being a master of ceremonies. I'm only a steward after all. So good night, everybody. Take care, and we'll see you soon. Okay, bye for now. Oh, it's not giving me the option to leave. I wonder why. Oh, they've changed it. There we are.